Welcome to the official Lawyer Minds podcast. Lawyer Minds is an ever-growing ecosystem for all the resources modern lawyers need. As the official Lawyer Minds podcast, we'll discuss everything from the latest happenings on the website to industry news. Get ready. Here we go. It's time to dive into the minds of successful lawyers. Here are your hosts, Tad Thomas and Mike Campbell.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
I'm just coming back from a jury trial, believe it or not.
Well, I was going to say you had kind of a big week last week, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, I came in second in the trial, but it was a very interesting week.
You tried a med-mal case in the middle of a COVID pandemic that honestly most med-mal lawyers might not try. And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we'll do a full podcast on it because I think it's important to talk about trying a case during COVID and how we can convince these judges that it needs to be done. Luckily, we had a judge in Dayton, Ohio, who was interested in trying it and seeing how we could try a case safely. So there were all sorts of precautions that were taken. Masks, for the jury 100% of the time. All the other participants, pretty much 100% of the time, unless you were the attorney doing the Q&A. The witnesses, no masks, but they were behind plexiglass when they were answering the questions. So, but we'll do a podcast and talk about, everything that the court did. And, I really just appreciate the judge finding a way to do it and the court staff finding a way to do it safely. And was it easy? No. Was it, is the old way like we would want it? No. But, we were able to try a case. And, I'm a firm believer we just can't keep pushing cases off indefinitely. That there is a safe way to do this, and it takes time, it takes effort, it's different, but it can be done.
Good for you, man. I mean, that's first, like you said, we're going to talk about it in another podcast, but then also the fact that you not just tried a med-mal case, which are extraordinarily difficult, but you did it at a time when I think most people, especially trial lawyers, would agree it's pretty difficult to try a med-mal case because of the deference given to doctors. So yeah. Thanks for taking one for the team, I guess.
Yeah, you could say that. So today, though,
you went out there, swung away, and that's what we do. We're not settle lawyers, we're trial lawyers. You went out there, swung away, tried to get justice for your client, and the jury spoke.
That's right. Yeah, the jury did the right thing. And I ended up with a good jury. I was, I think if I had better facts, I could have gotten a verdict with this jury. It wasn't a jury issue for sure. So.
Sure.
But today we're going to talk about one of my passions as part of AAJ, and that's the trial lawyer care part of AAJ. The guy started, you're going to hear Brenda and talk about the extraordinary way that trial lawyers care got started after September 11th and the tragedy that was, and all of the pro bono efforts that trial lawyers across the country put in in what was an amazing time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize the impact that an organization like Trial Lawyers Care has, especially whenever disaster strikes. A lot of people see, obviously, the tragedy and the loss of life or the, injuries that occur, and then something else happens and the news goes away. And what people don't realize is the aftermath is you've got insurance disputes, you've got unscrupulous creditors trying to take advantage of people, and you've just got scammers. And then, trial lawyers kind of come in force this organization and really provide sort of a very protective role for those folks who've been affected by a tragedy or, an act of God.
Yeah, we've got an interview coming up with Elise Sanguinetti, who's the immediate past president of AAJ now, and we're going to talk to her about driverless cars. But one of the things that she's doing, she recently sold her home in California, and as she was reviewing, I guess it was the neighborhood documents. We can ask her more about it. Essentially there were provisions, because these documents had been written so long ago, that were blatantly racist, talking about who could and could not move into the community. And so she took it upon herself to see to it that these things got changed. And now that's one of her big crusades around California, is getting these restrictive covenants that are prejudicial changed all across the state of California. So, really interesting. Trial lawyers are out there doing, really good things that only lawyers can do.
Yeah, and I don't know what it's like in Kentucky, but in Missouri, you're encouraged to do pro bono work. It's not mandatory. And so sometimes people are compelled to do pro bono work, and they just don't know, they get an itch and they just don't know, how to scratch it. And one of those things that Trial Lawyers Care does is sort of funnel that energy into something productive. And so if you're interested in doing some pro bono work and trying to help out where you're needed, this is a great organization to get involved with.
So let's hear from Brenda Fulmer and Karen Bay Schroeder. They're the co-chairs of AAJ's Trial Lawyers Care Committee. Karen, Brenda, welcome. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves and your practices? Karen, you want to start?
Sure. So I started a Schroeder Law Office, and I also work with Burnett Law Firm, and we represent individuals who are harmed by medical devices or manufactured devices, as well as pharmaceuticals, and try and get them just compensation.
Great. Brenda, how about you?
Sure. My name is Brenda Fulmer. I'm a partner and shareholder with the law firm of Cersei, Denny, Scarola, Barnhart, and Shipley. We have 32 lawyers, and we have offices in West Palm Beach as well as Tallahassee, Florida. I've been practicing for the last 26 years as a mass tort lawyer, mostly doing pharmaceutical and medical device cases.
So Brenda, why don't you tell us a little bit about Trial Lawyers Care and how it got started?
All right. Well, as the oldest one on the call, I get the pleasure of telling you back in the day. I was an AAJ member in 2001, and we all remember the days following what happened. At the time, I had a daughter, and I think she was in kindergarten, and there was just this paralyzing, fear, feeling that I had to do something, but didn't really know what to do or how to wrap my head around what had happened. And within days of 9/11 happening, AAJ stepped up. They stepped up in the biggest way and said, we're going to do something about this. And I had to do a little bit of research, but by September 24th, 2001, Trial Lawyers Care had been launched in involving lawyers that were, kind of directly impacted, especially in the Northeast. And basically, Trial Lawyers Care started as a way for trial lawyers to come together and to help however we could the families that had lost loved ones and those that had been injured. Through this, I believe it's still the largest pro bono effort ever that's been undertaken. There were more than 4,000 families that received free legal consultation. There were 1,700 families that were represented in the national compensation program that was set up where the federal government came in. And I'm very, very proud to report that we had more than 1,100 lawyers, AAJ members, not only from the United States, but also from Canada, England, Australia, and Mexico that volunteered their time. And it was a significant amount of time. The representation went on for years. And they also donated their costs. I personally had the pleasure of representing two two families from Florida, the father of one of the heroes of Flight 93 that crashed in Pennsylvania, and also two minor children whose father perished in the World Trade Center. And it is by far the most amazing, and just I still have chills sitting here talking about it, which is the most profound thing that I would ever had the privilege of doing as a lawyer. And the fact that Trial Lawyers Cares is still around today, and we're going to celebrate an anniversary next year, a horrible anniversary, but also an anniversary where trial lawyers did so many positive things, is just wonderful. And I don't think I mentioned it, but based upon the statistics that were ultimately released, plaintiffs that had representation through AAJ, Trial Lawyers Care members and volunteers received substantially more than those who had private counsel, private paid counsel. So I'm really, really, so proud. And there were so many people from here, there, and everywhere that stepped up and, did what they could to make certain that we did right by everyone that was impacted, and also a way to channel our grief into something positive.
So Karen, how has Trial Lawyers Care changed over the years, and kind of tell us about what it is now?
Over the years, what we've done is taken the opportunity to look at where there is a need and try and fulfill that need. We look at natural disaster areas, tornadoes, hurricanes, and we try and find an American Association for Justice member in that area to find out whether or not there's a need there, what the need is, and then try and encourage members to help fulfill those needs to make sure that we're leaving that area in a better place than it was. In addition, what we've started to do is at the time of conventions, we actually go into the community that we're going to be having our convention at, and we try and improve that community as well by doing a service project, usually a wish list in order to provide supplies to the organization that we are working with. And then we actually do a day of service project where we go into that facility itself and try and do whatever they need, be it fixing bicycles, redoing construction areas, or whatever else they need.
So I know since we had the virtual convention this summer, we weren't able to do something in person. So what did Trial Lawyers Care do for Amped Up?
For Amped Up, what we did was we linked together with Friendship Place, and they are working on different amounts of homelessness. There's acute.
Yeah.
We're having an issue with the audio, but Brenda, do you want to fill in for that?
Sure, absolutely. Because we weren't able to be in person, I mean, if we'd been in person, we would have actually traveled to the facility in Washington, D.C. and did what we could to assist. What we did in this particular instance is we had Amazon wish list, and basically the facility gave us a list of all of the items that they needed, and we were able to fulfill those wishes. In the past, over the last couple of years at convention, we volunteered at a home. It was actually a series of group homes for foster children in Miami, and did the same thing where AAJ members from across the country, whether they were coming to convention or not, were able to purchase items that were needed in the home. And then there was a large group of us that actually went and renovated all of the bedrooms. They had new furniture. I mean, it was kind of like one of those HGTV shows where we turned over an entire group home within a couple of hours. And all the kids, when they came home from school, had quite a surprise, because we had completely redecorated, new furniture, tidied up, and just did a lot of really cool things. And then we're, able sometimes to interact with the people that we're serving as well. So that's the kind of thing that we've been doing in connection with conventions. This year was a little bit more challenging, but still very, very successful.
And so Karen, Trial Lawyers Care gives an award every year at AAJ convention. Tell us who won this year and why.
This year's winner was actually Colleen Carboy. She runs her own law firm in Dallas, Texas. She is a medical malpractice attorney, but prior to her 20-plus year experience as a med mal attorney, she actually was a nurse. And so when COVID-19 struck the East Coast, she actually called up a few attorney friends and said, hey, I'm going to try and have my paralegal run my firm for a while. And if I have any issues, please be a resource for her. And she called up her opposing counsel and said, just so you know, I'm going to go into New Jersey and I'm going to help people who are suffering from COVID. If you have issues, be aware that I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks going to help, people who need it. And so she essentially left her law practice and moved to New Jersey for several weeks, where she worked long hours, said goodbye to a lot of patients, good and bad ways, and helped people that were suffering from COVID-19. In talking to her, in the experience, she said that it was very much life-changing, that, the one difference in the practice of medicine since she stopped practicing medicine was computerized systems for record keeping. And that was the main thing that she had to bone up on. But other than that, medicine is medicine, and she took care of all of her patients the best she could, and just gave and left everything that she had, her family, her friends, her practice, in order to go and help people who needed it, which is what Trial Lawyers Care is all about, and what the people in the American Association for Justice try and do every day, which is help those who need help.
So Brenda, if someone were wanting, if an attorney were wanting to get involved with Trial Lawyers Care, how would they do that?
Well, reach out to me or Karen. Kristen on AAJ staff is our staff contact. I think we're in the process of setting up an email. Is it up yet, Karen? We actually have an AAJ specific email for people to reach out to us, and we're beefing up the listserv. Now that AAJ's launched a new website, we're hoping to have a lot more resources on there. But for right now, if you could just reach out to either of the two of us, we'll be happy to get you connected and kind of into the fold. We want as many people as possible to be engaged, and we know that there are a lot of people out there doing cool things. The other thing too is we have a Facebook page, so like us, and we have a Twitter account, and we'll put I guess we can put those up on the screen. But if you, that's probably the best way to connect with us is through social media, and we'd love to hear more about what people are doing so that we can make certain that others, we can kind of rebroadcast that information.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll get those addresses from you, and we'll put them in our show notes so that anybody listening can just click on it and find Facebook and Twitter and all that. Tell us what your all's goals are for this year.
We have a lot of goals. We have a lot of goals every year. We're hoping that during the conventions, obviously, we have our in-service projects. Hopefully we can do those. We've actually been looking at a couple different places already with the next convention, being the winter convention in California. There's a lot of military bases around there. We're looking at maybe doing something for the children in the military, because if you don't know it, if you're a private PV2, private first class, and you're married and you have kids, you qualify for food stamps, and those kids don't get a lot of fun things to do. So we're considering doing something fun for those kids. We're considering a couple different other projects. There's a tolerance museum in California near there that we're considering partnering with it as well. So we're trying to figure out what to do for the convention. And also, when the convention website goes up, you can link to sign up for the project, and then that gives us a better idea. Do we need one project or two, and make accommodations for that. Throughout the year, obviously, if there's a natural disaster and the person wants to help, contact us. We'll plug you in for where to help during the natural disaster. And then Brenda also came up with a great idea about 5K runs throughout the year. Brenda, did you want to comment on that?
Sure. Since we're all battling that COVID-15 and have more time on our hands to do the exercise that we don't normally do when we leave our houses, we've decided to do some virtual 5Ks, national 5Ks, and so we'll be rolling that out over the next couple months. I think it'll be fun, and it'll also give us an opportunity to kind of focus on the unity part of community and make certain that we're all working together to raise, keep ourselves fit have a social aspect, but also help organizations in need that are really struggling right now, because this is a huge, part of their fundraising, and not being able to get 5,000 people together has made it super challenging. So I think that we can do a lot of good, and so I'm looking forward to it. We're working on identifying the organizations right now for that.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Looking forward to your all's year as co-chairs of Trial Lawyers Care. I know you guys always do a great job. I've been working with you all for years. So thank you so much for taking the reins and, helping lawyers do good work. So thank you guys.
Well, thanks
Thank
again
you,
for
Kat.
giving us this opportunity, and we hope to see you all, especially on social media. I want to go viral, so help us do that.
Well, we'll certainly help you as much as we can. So
That's right.
thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, there's so many things that trial lawyers can do and should be doing, outside of just the practice of law. And it's nice to have an organization, like you were saying earlier, like Trial Lawyers Care, to help, funnel us to something productive.
Yeah, and it can be as simple as, being an election monitor on election day, or it can be as ambitious as going to Joplin the day after the tornado and the weeks after the tornado and helping out there. And the great thing about this organization is that they find those really high need situations and put lawyers to work and give them that structure and guidance to do what we really were, trained to do, which is provide a service to the community.
Yeah. You hit on something that we really didn't talk about with Brenda and Karen. There's another AAJ committee that's the Voter Protection Committee that's going to be working a lot, obviously, over the next couple of months. One of the issues that COVID's created is, the people who typically work the polls are senior citizens and are in a high risk category. And a lot of them can't do that anymore. So, we need people to step up and volunteer to not only be poll monitors, but be poll workers this year.
Yeah, and we should probably do a whole podcast on that, because now my thoughts are just racing. But yes, give your time to take. I know everybody has busy practices. People who are listening to this, I understand that completely. But whether you get involved in Trial Lawyers Care or you have just like 5 to 6 hours to take off on election day, please do that. I can't tell you how important the upcoming election is. And if you have time to commit to doing something like Trial Lawyers Care, they're going to find a lot of very rewarding activities for you to get involved with, where you can really make an impact in someone's life.
Yeah, and a lot of people, when things come up, we don't necessarily have the time to participate. But with Trial Lawyers Care, they send around, if they're going to go do work at a children's home or whatever the case may be, they send around a link to Amazon, and there's a list of everything that charity needs, and it's as simple as getting on and adding stuff to your cart and throwing in your credit card and checking out. And a lot of people can support that way.
It's pretty easy. They make it pretty easy, to help. So it's, and the other thing too is that there's always, as they discussed, there's always an activity before convention, the day before convention starts. And so, if you've already got that time built in, and you can pitch in there, they make it easy to get back.
Well, Mike, another good podcast. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Hey, happy birthday. I know it's late. You tried a jury trial on your birthday during COVID.
It's I woke up thinking today's going to be a good day. It's my birthday, and I get to do closing arguments and cross the defense expert. And so the first half of the day was great. It was only when the jury came back was the only bad part of the day. But
yeah, it is never ever a good feeling. And it's when you take a loss, but you went in there and you swung away, and did it on your birthday. You tried a mid-mal, and there are all kinds of like really awesome things I could say to you, but you probably had a nice bourbon or two this weekend and put it behind you.
I tried a few different ones. So.
I bet.
Mike, we'll see you next time.
See you, buddy.
That wraps another episode of the official Lawyer Minds podcast. Please consider subscribing to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Explore the other content Lawyer Minds has to offer and engage with us on social media. Your feedback on the show and ideas for future shows is always welcomed. See you next time.